Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Ollie Show, where we will have special guests, hot topics, and unexpected surprises. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Ollie Show. Today, I'd like to invite you to open your hearts and clear your minds as we dive into our topic, childbirth and the near-death experience. I have a very special guest here on today who almost lost her life during the process of childbirth. If you would put your hands together once again and help me to welcome to the stage, Tina Bonner.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good, I just want to first thank you just for coming to be a part of the show on today. And this topic right here is one that I didn't really know how you would take it when we wrote into you just to ask you about coming to be a part of it, but I knew that it was something that you dealt with, and It was something that I feel like we need to educate people on.
Definitely.
Because so many people, they really don't have any idea what goes on when it comes down to childbirth.
Exactly.
So let's just back up a little bit. Even before your situation with what you dealt with, and let's talk about as far as your life. What was life like as far as a child for you?
Well, as far as a child, I grew up, the baby of the family.
Okay.
And being the baby of the family and having older sisters, it kind of, I guess you could say, it kind of spoiled me. But my childhood was, even though I had some experiences, I still had a great, childhood, pretty much. Now there were some things that had happened to me growing up, some unusual circumstances, like for instance, at the age of 5, I remember getting hit by a car getting off the school bus.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and that was pretty traumatic. But then there was a few other little things that occurred in my life. But other than there's things, like they say, the good it outweighs the bad. So I went through certain things, but I always seem to overcome.
Okay. And so let's fast forward. So since from everything that you've stated, you got married.
Yes.
And so you're currently married now.
Yes.
And how long have you been married?
We've been married approximately 16 years.
16 years. Okay.
Yes.
And you have how many children?
Altogether, I have 5 children.
Okay. And with 5 children, what a lot of the people that's a part of the show that's tuning in and everything now don't know is that your number, it's just pretty much, it skipped. It went from one number over to
yes.
another. How many kids did you have in the beginning stage when you first got married?
In the beginning stage, I had 2 children.
You had 2 children?
Yes.
Okay, now watch this. This is the kicker. And then it went from 2 children to how many?
It jumped from 2 children to 5 children.
To 5 children. So you gave birth to triplets.
Yes.
And that's what's really leading into our story.
Yes.
Of how did that really happen? Was that something that you planned, or what really took place with that?
No, it was definitely not planned. There was no doctor intervention, with fertility treatments or anything like that. It just was, it just occurred. It was just one of those things that happened.
Did you want to have, like, as far as a big family?
Well, we knew when we were engaged and we had gotten married, we had already discussed that I would have another child. And I had already told my husband, okay, I already have 2.
Okay.
So we'll just try one more, that's it. And so when we were engaged, I would say maybe immediately after my husband proposed to me, before we got married, I distinctly remember one night I had a dream.
A dream?
A dream, yes.
Wow, okay.
And in the dream, I saw that I was one day going to have triplets.
Okay.
And when I awoke from the dream, when I saw my fiance at the time the next day, I told him, I said, I had a dream that one day you and I are going to have triplets.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, oh, please, that
Did
is
he
not
laugh?
going
Did
to
he
happen.
laugh at you?
He laughed at me.
Okay.
He said, oh, no, that's not going to happen.
Uh-huh.
That will never happen. And I said, okay, so we just kind of dismissed it. And we got married in October of 2004.
Okay.
And at the end of 2007, I became pregnant, I guess around December of 2007.
Okay.
And it was either January of 2008 or February. It may have been late January. I can't remember exactly. But I had my doctor's appointment.
Okay.
And when I went to the doctor looked at me and she said, well, it looks like you may be pregnant with twins. I'm not sure.
Okay.
She said, but I will only know really well about this after 3 weeks. She said, because sometimes women look like they're going to have twins, but they're not.
So do twins or
Yeah,
triplets or anything
yes.
that run in your family?
Yes, me and my husband both have lots of twins in our family.
Lots of twins.
But
So
no one has ever had triplets.
Okay, so this is the first
This
time
is the first
that
time.
something like this occurred.
Yes.
So after that occurred, did you want to just instantly start doing a lot of research or anything to see, like, hey, I mean, how and like what would cause something like this? Or, I mean, and were you like more scared or happy? Or
I wasn't scared, and I wasn't even really wanting to do any research at that moment.
Nothing, neither?
No, neither one, because I just thought about what the doctor said. She said it looks as if maybe twins,
Okay.
but it's a possibility that it's just one baby.
So still no nervousness or anything?
No,
came
no,
just
no,
like,
no nervousness, not at all. I looked
You
at
like you in your mind,
yes.
you're like, I've already had one child.
exactly,
another child, so
yes.
I'm like, boom, this
right,
is easy.
right.
Okay.
But I remember when we left, I told my husband, I said, well, do you remember that dream I had about 3 years ago?
Oh.
And I said, so I said, what if when we come back in 3 weeks, it's triplets?
Oh,
And
so you
he
kinda
was
jinxed
like,
yourself.
yes. And he said, oh, no. And so when we came back after 3 weeks, I remember as my doctor did the sonogram,
Yeah.
I remember her going, she put me on the monitor and everything, and she just kind of got quiet there for a minute. And I remember my husband saying, is it twins? And she said, well, no, it's not one, it's not two, but it's three.
Ah. So then you were like, who's laughing now?
Oh, yes, definitely. So.
Okay. So after all of that occurred, were you worried at that point?
After all of that occurred, I was not worried at all.
Okay.
Actually, I was just, I knew, after having the dream and everything that coming into fruition, and then the doctor telling me that I was going to give birth to triplets, I was fine.
Okay. So let's look at it from another perspective now, because, okay, mentally you were fine. You had no problems or anything like that at that point. But let's just face it. I mean, everybody, they deal with it financially. I mean, unless,
Oh, yes.
unless you're making $2, $3, $4 million
Right,
a year.
right.
And so how did that affect you? Or did it affect you at all? Or was it like, hey, I know that we're going to be taken care of it?
I was concerned, but for some reason there was a peace about that within me, and I just knew if God allowed this, then He's gonna make some type of provisions, some sort of way, and definitely He did. There was an outpouring from the community, with churches, with family, with friends, in helping us through our situation with me carrying triplets. So everything that we may have been concerned about, we really didn't have to be. So that just, it worked out.
Gotcha, okay. And so that was all leading up to that point. So let's talk about just the process of all this. You found out in February that you were pregnant, is that right?
Yes.
And the month that the babies were born was what month?
July.
Okay, and so from February of just finding out up until July, would you say that it was a healthy pregnancy or? What really?
Well, the pregnancy itself was very healthy, and the things I was going through were normal, because, as you know, a woman carrying that many babies, her pregnancy is not going to be like a woman carrying just one.
Right.
And I could tell right off it definitely was not going to be that, because, with women, you're going to have your morning sickness and different things like that. Mine was all day long.
Okay.
I
So
stayed.
you deal with morning sickness.
I stayed sick
all day,
constantly.
no matter what time.
No
of day,
matter.
7,
No
8, 9,
matter.
or
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
I stayed constantly sick.
So, by it being a normal, well, you're saying not fully normal pregnancy, but it was like you said.
Normal for multiples.
Yeah, for something like that.
Yes.
Let's go into the part about when we have labeled now the near-death experience. What really happened at that point, for it to be more along the lines of that? When did you start really noticing that? Hey, something's not right with you.
Well, I know it's quite normal for. I started doing a little research on it. I believe it's when you get around the 4th month of your pregnancy.
Yeah, so you're about halfway in.
Yes, with multiples,
Okay.
your body may start to think that you're in your 9th month.
Oh, wow.
And you start to have contractions and things like that. And actually, me and my husband were at a doctor's appointment for the doctor to see us and just check everything out. And they told me I was going to have to stay because my body had started contracting.
At 4 months?
Yes.
Okay.
About four months.
Okay.
And so.
Did you feel anything strange?
Yeah, I could tell something was strange going on. Yes, definitely. And so I had to stay in the hospital from that 4th month of pregnancy until I delivered them.
You had to do that, okay.
Yes.
So what we're going to do is we're going to pause. We're going to take a moment to go to commercial break, and then we're going to come back right after this, and we're going to pick up as far as you telling us about what happened with you having to stay in the hospital and dealing with this near-death experience. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back once again. We have been having a discussion about childbirth and the near-death experience. And I have Miss Tina here, and she's been sharing some very valuable information about how she gave birth to triplets and how it was a journey, we'll just say it like that, along the way. And I think we was at the part where you stopped and you had started talking about as far as you had went and they had basically told you going to stay inside of the hospital.
Right.
How long was that?
Well, this occurred at the beginning of May.
Okay.
I
You got pregnant in February, and then here we go May.
I was basically pregnant at the end of 2007, December.
So you got pregnant in 2007, but in February you found out.
Yes.
I guess I'll put it like that. Yeah,
yes.
February you found out.
Yes.
And then in May, you go to the hospital, they say, look like you're going to have to stay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And so when you found out that you were going to have to stay, then what was your thoughts at that point? Were you just like, okay, I've done this before?
Well, I was not thrilled with the thought of having to stay, because at the time I still had 2 younger children, children still at home. School was still in session. I had a lot of things that kind of worried me and concerned me. I was not prepared at all to have to stay.
In there like,
and where I had to stay, the hospital we were at was not the hospital in our area.
So tell me this, why did they say that you had to stay?
Well, first of all, I was 40 years old at the time.
Okay, see, that's so you was 40.
I was 40.
Like it was
yes,
higher risk?
risk.
Okay.
I'm 40 years old, carrying 3 babies.
Okay.
I'm starting to contract. That's not, that's definite signs
healthy
that,
sign.
yes, that I need to stay. I need to stay because, even if I had been in my 20s, they probably still would have made me stay with the fact that I'm carrying triplets.
Yeah.
But definitely being high risk that I was, being the age that I was, and carrying that many babies, and my body's thinking it's time for them to deliver, because if I had delivered them at that time, they would not have lived.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so that put you in a state of mind of what, more of going into depression or
Yes.
frustration?
Yeah, I started to get really depressed and frustrated, because I was, just worried about, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
And, I'm thinking about, what about my children, my husband, we weren't ready yet,
Right.
and there were, I'm just thinking about everything.
So you had just a lot that was
Yes.
literally just going through
Yes.
your mind.
Yes.
So you stay in the hospital.
Yes.
And the babies, they make it.
Yes.
They live. Was it always signs of knowing that they were, or was it some possibilities that, how people deal with the situation where
Right.
one may lose their life, or
Yes.
two, may
Yes.
actually make it, the other one, did you ever deal with any of that, or
Yes,
it was
I did.
all healthy?
I did. Doctors, they would come and talk to me and my husband and tell us that, there's a possibility,
Yeah.
that they may or may not live, and things like that. And, I went through a lot of things like that being told to me. So,
Okay.
so
and,
yes.
And so May, June, the birthday is what? In July?
July.
Okay.
July 7th.
Okay, so July 7th, babies are born.
Yes.
And all of you stay in the hospital, or you go home right after?
Well, we all stayed in the hospital. Of course, the boys had to stay way longer than I did, because they were put in the NICU unit because they had low birth weight. I mean, when you have multiples,
Yeah.
and you have them earlier than they're supposed to be born, because one was 2 pounds 12 ounces, the other one was 2 pounds 14 ounces,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one was 3 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So they all had to stay in the hospital, and they stayed about a month and a half, which is good.
So how was your husband really dealing with this, everything, I mean, during this time frame?
Well, my husband, he was very, very supportive.
Okay.
And, the thing about it is he still was back and forth checking on our other 2 children.
Okay.
And making sure they were getting to school and everything. And of course, we had a lot of support from family and friends and everything. But, my stay was like I said, it was in another state. We live, in Texas, and
Right.
I was in the hospital in Louisiana,
Okay.
the LSU. So there was he had to do a lot of traveling.
So just going back and
Back
forth.
and
I mean,
forth.
it's got to be tedious.
Yes, yes.
And this was on every other day or weekly
Right,
basis, or
right.
something like that
Yes,
right there.
yes.
And so, with all that occurring, let's get to the part where you end up getting out after the kids, and
Right.
what happened.
Okay, so I had the babies on July 7th, and I believe it was July the 9th I was dismissed.
Okay, so 2 days later.
Yes. And I just noticed when I was being dismissed that I just did not feel good.
Okay.
Even with the medication that they gave me,
Mhm.
it still didn't help.
Yeah.
The next day when I got home, I just felt really bad,
Mhm.
and I know you're not going to feel 100 when
Right, immediately. Yeah.
when you have children, but this was very abnormal from my other 2 pregnancies.
Okay.
And I started getting, one minute I'm having hot sweats, next minute I'm having cold sweats, and I couldn't sleep well, and just the pain medicine wasn't working. I was in a lot of pain. Just everything was not working for me, and I tried the medication every day, and it didn't help. By that, I say about 3 days later, 2 or 3 days later, over in the night, I just remember it felt like someone had put a pillow over my face, and,
Oh, wow.
and I was about to lose my breath. Well, I was losing my breath.
Okay.
And I woke my husband up, and I told him I could not breathe.
Oh, wow. And so this is, you get out like on the 9th, and you said 2 or 3 days after that. So
Yes,
around about maybe 11, 12.
If I got out, I guess that Wednesday, Monday, about that Wednesday, that Saturday, I was in the hospital,
Okay.
in a local hospital.
Okay. And what did they discover? What happened? I mean,
Well, they discovered that there was this type of rare infection that I had developed after having the babies.
yeah.
And they told me that if I had waited for maybe another hour or 2, I would not have made it.
Then you would have passed away.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. and they were just able to, after discovering it, like get everything straight under
Yes.
control, or you had to go into immediate surgery, or?
Thank God I didn't have to have any type of surgery.
Okay.
My doctor put me on all types of fluids and different things, that antibiotics, all kinds of stuff. I had to stay in the hospital for about another week.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And so with something like that occurring, now with you being married, how is that affecting your husband? 'Cause that's totally different than just you being in the hospital, being pregnant with the boys, and him traveling back and forward. But now you're in one hospital, I'm assuming.
Right.
And your
the
husband's
boys.
in another. I mean,
Yeah,
your
the
boys
babies
are
are,
in
yes,
another
they're in
hospital.
another hospital.
So with him traveling, I mean, how is that working now?
Oh, that became very frustrating for
Okay.
him. You know, he's worried about the progress of the boys,
Yeah.
and then he's worried about my progress.
Okay.
So, but he's some type of way he
How
would go
far
back.
apart was those hospitals?
Those hospitals were maybe, well, you know, the hospital I was at was in Longview, Texas,
Okay.
and the hospital that they were at was in Shreveport, Louisiana.
So at least an hour and
About an
something
hour.
distance
Yes.
apart from one another.
Yes,
Wow. All
yes.
of that right there.
All
is-
of that, yes.
It's tiring. I mean, just
Yes.
even just thinking about it. So I could just imagine with him having to go through and do it. So when did the boys really start improving?
The boys started improving, I would say, as they started gaining more weight. The first one that came home, of course, was Jeremiah, and he was the firstborn.
So they all didn't come at the same time?
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
they didn't. They didn't come home at the same time.
Okay.
Which was good.
Okay, okay.
I realize that now. You know, of course, at first we were like, "Oh, we want them all to come home," but yeah, that was good.
Yeah, they kind of get you in the process.
Yes. And you know, he gained more weight first, I believe, and his appetite was a little better. And he was, like I said, he was the firstborn. They're all a minute apart.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he came home first, and about 2 or 3 days later, Joseph came home.
Mm-hmm.
And then about 2 or 3 days later after that, Josiah came home.
Oh, okay. So when did you really start feeling better?
Let's see. When I truly started feeling better, it was, well, I felt a whole lot better when I was released from the hospital after a week, but it was still a process with me, because it was harder to regain my strength back this time than it was the last 2 times of the other children that I gave birth to. This was so yes.
What you had to deal with 1, 3.
Yes. I just remember for a long time I had a bad hip pain.
Okay.
You know, that lingered for a while. So it took a while longer than it did with the other 2. And then I'm sure with my age that didn't help either.
Yeah.
You know, so this may have lasted maybe 2 or 3 months longer.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All of that right there is, I mean, it's information that I didn't, even though I've known you for quite some time, I mean, it's information that I didn't even know about.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that, I mean, everybody's feeling the same way that I'm feeling about it, that this story right here is one that definitely is educating a lot of people.
Right.
With just childbirth, all in general, with these type of things.
Exactly.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut to a commercial break right now, and we'll be back right after this. Well, welcome back once again. And so here we are. And guess what? We have all 3 of the boys here with us on today that Tina gave birth to. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself? You are?
I am Jeremiah.
I am Josiah.
I am Joseph.
All right. And how old are you?
13.
13. Wow. So all of this occurred 13 years ago. And, well, I guess we could say 14 years ago, but you guys were born 13 years ago. And what grade are you in?
8th.
Everybody's in 8th grade. Well, of course, yeah. And what school do you guys go to?
Foster Middle School.
Foster Middle School. So what are some of your favorite subjects that you have?
Science.
You like science? Okay.
I don't like no.
Oh, so what do you want to do?
I haven't really thought about it. I want to make music.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to be like a producer?
Yes.
Okay. What's in it? What's really in that right there?
Like the craft of making music.
You think you're gonna make a lot of money?
Probably.
Probably. All right. What about you?
I want to be an artist.
You want to be an artist? Okay. Okay. You draw pretty well now? Okay. Alrighty then. Who are some role models that you could say that you really look up to?
Well, I haven't really seen that much people draw, but I usually
That's
I
just
see
a
it
desire
on
you have.
yeah.
I see.
And I also want to be in the NBA, but that's
Okay.
my second choice.
DJ Mustard, you know, he be over there with a lot of big celebrities. Yeah, that's who I look up to.
Okay. And what about you?
Probably Will Smith because I want to be an actor.
Okay, you want to be an actor. Okay, okay. So, as you know, we're on the show today because of the topic, the childbirth and near-death experience. You've been hearing everything that your mom's been saying, so do you guys really have an understanding of what really took place
Yes.
at that particular time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how do you guys really feel about that? Are you really thankful to be here now?
Mhm.
Or?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
very
sir.
thankful.
Look,
Yes,
you
sir.
sound very thankful. Okay, so I'm going to come back to you, Tina, and I wanted to ask you, now that you have pretty much shared your entire story, what are some closing words that you would like to be able to leave as far as with our live audience that's, you know, here and as well as those that are watching online, that you would be able to say about your situation as well as what you could tell future mothers and that are just, you know, viewing us online?
Well, I would feel like with anybody, we know that with God, all things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
And my situation to some people seems like it could be an impossible thing.
Yeah.
You know, first of all, being 40 years old at the time, carrying that many babies,
Which puts, because they're 13, I just caught this, so that puts you over
that puts
50
me at
now.
53.
Oh, 53. Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. So, you know, that itself is a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because even early on in the pregnancy, I was asked by, you know, some of the doctors, is there any possibility or any desire that me and my husband may have to eliminate? Because they do ask you that when you are carrying
Mm-hmm.
multiples, because some people really didn't, that wasn't their plan.
Yeah.
So would you like to eliminate one or two, you
Oh,
know,
wow.
you know, and just have a single pregnancy,
Mm.
you know, and then, you know, I may have also been asked due to my age as well. But I just, you know, just want to encourage anyone, you know, that if you have a desire for something, and even if it does seem like it's not reachable at that moment, or it seems like that there's a lot of difficulty going on, there may be a little difficulty, but we serve a God that can weather you through that and see you through it, and at the end it'll come out okay.
Okay, all right then. All right, so there you have it. These three boys was born 13 years ago, and I would definitely like to thank all of you for just coming to be a part of the show, and also you, Miss Tina, just for agreeing to be able to be here as well.
Thank you.
I want to thank each of you for being here. That's my first thing I want to say. And then to all of our listeners and viewers that are watching, one thing that I want to take as a takeaway and just give to everyone is, like you said, all things are possible through God. We didn't know, just like I'm sure that it wasn't anything that you planned, but you guys definitely had as far as the faith to believe that it was going to work out for you.
Yes.
And with having that faith, everything did turn out the way that God had intended it for it to. And as you see, these are the examples of with them being here on today. And so I want to thank you once again for all of this. So let's continue to talk and let's listen and never stop loving. Until next time, thank you for watching the Dr. Ollie Show. God bless.
Thank you.